What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are playing Flat Creek in Marble Falls, Texas. 18 holes, par 64, 8,200 feet. This plays through a winery, which is pretty cool. Hole 1, 358 feet. Super low ceiling here. There's a couple of spots where it just feels like some of the lines need to be pruned up a little bit, but for the most part, the grounds here are incredibly well maintained. There's a Eclipse Envy that I just kind of fluffed. Went down towards hole 2's tee pad through the trees there on the left. Mindbender here. Little 2-on-1 action off the tee and on the green. Hole 2, 310 feet. I'm going Mindbender again since I was happy with it on the first hole. You've got a really big hyzer here, or you can go through the left side of this tree that I'm about to hit, which is what I was trying to do. Not hit it, go on the left side of the tree and play the big turnover. The basket is between that white building straight in front of me and the tree on the right. I'm going to eternal bullet here and didn't give it enough turn. Kind of sailed the green a little bit. So I'm walking up to the third tee, and wow, this place is beautiful. Hole 3, 661 feet, par 4. I'm going Grackle off the tee here, trying to get some turn. Kind of match this little dirt road. And then hook back up into this hillside. Going Captain's Raptor here. Got a good tree catch to drop me down on the green. Probably been a 50-footer kind of putting downhill. And that was just brutal. Hole 4, 235 feet. The pin is kind of, or the tee, excuse me, is kind of on the wrong spot on the GPS. Pretty easy to notice when you look closely though. That wire is really what you gotta miss. I'm just going with Bobcat here. Kind of a low basket, but mostly really good baskets here. I think there was a couple of disc catchers, but for the most part it's these Mach X's. Hole 5, 360 feet uphill. So I'm going Fission Wave. Figure throwing it nose up, uphill, with a little bit of a tailwind. All that's going to stable this flippy driver up enough. And I thought that had a chance. I was really pleased with that. Hole 6, par 4, 537 feet. There may be a Mando editing this. I noticed it. I didn't notice it on the T sign. There may be a Mando straight that you got to throw under. You can see that line cutting through the trees. Instead I go big turnover, so possibly a misplay here. I mean, that's still a hard shot to execute. Like, I didn't really get that far. I have a nice hyzer into the green though. I'm going Bobcat again, but I've got a tailwind that I didn't really take into account. And it hooks up a little early. It took me a minute to find it. Luckily I was on the edge. I wasn't down in that gully. At least had a look at a birdie. Hole 7, par 4, 650 feet. The map looks like it's a forehand hole, but I would say you need to throw as straight as possible and let something hyzer down. Like, yeah, right hand, backhand. I just overturned that a little bit, actually a lot. But you want something that's gonna fly this mound that I'm kind of on and then hyzer out down to the left towards that shaded area. You can actually see the short pin position down in the shade there. That, I believe, is the ideal landing zone unless you've got a big arm and can go over the top. Go on razor claw, kind of flex. And I got super lucky. I think this tree may have caught me, kept me from going into the creek. Lobster here. A little too much angle on it. Lost a bunch of distance. But I've got to look at a par. Another good layup. Hole 8, par 5, 960 feet. Quite a bit downhill. You're kind of at the top of the property here. And that tree that's straight ahead off the tee pad, that's about 400 feet. I'm going Big Z Zeus here of a gentle headwind. Playing that swing. Didn't swing as much as I would like, but I found a little window through the tree there and got down onto the flat. Brought the Diamondback with me on this trip as well. Blow of a low ceiling here, just shoot it straight. And don't do this. Luckily I caught a branch and it kind of forced it to lose a bunch of speed and hyzer out early. So I wasn't too far in the thick of it. Going buzz here. Man, I was so happy with that. Just flirting with those trees way too much. But got a safe uphill bid. Just a little anti-putt here with the P1. This isn't a terrible place to be. Obviously, it would have been much better to miss that tree and be on the green and have a real chance at it. But it was fair. Hole 9, 238 feet. I think this hole is kind of one of those like gotcha holes. It's right there. Just had a long par 5. Probably like me, missed out on a birdie. I think you got an easy one here to make it up. But low ceiling, tight gap. Kind of just playing for par, and if I have a look like this, I was happy to have a look. Hole 10, kind of a long walk to the other side of the compound. It's a par 5, 780. There are a couple Mandos in play here to kind of protect that shop that's up to the right. Really, you just need to throw it about 250 feet. Is the layup, 300 to get across. This is my meltdown hole. So it took me 2 throws to get barely over 300 feet on a 780 foot par 5. So I'm going jackalope. I'm either going to give it a bunch of air or try and do a roller here. I have no run up. This hill's incredibly steep. You do not want to be here. If I would have known how rough that hill was, I wouldn't have tried to go for it off the tee. I would have laid up. So now I got to put it close to the basket to give myself a chance at a par. Just put a little too much on the Mindbender. Got pinned high, but I'm down in no man's land. But even down there, I mean, it was mowed. Normally I'd be somewhere I'd be really apprehensive to walk through, you know, for snakes and stuff, but this, probably still got to watch out for snakes, but didn't feel sketchy at all down there. It was mowed, weed-eated, it was awesome. I would guess that was about...
This probably would have been worse.
A 40-footer that was 30 feet downhill.
The trunk of that tree. Way down there.
Cool hole, though. Hole 11, 212 feet. Nice change of pace. I'm going to hit this gap and finish left. I'm going Bobcat here. Came out of my hand a little low, caught a nice anti-skip and took flight again. Still outside the circle though. Not an ideal toss at all. Just giving it a half bid, making sure to get around that tree. Hole 12, 211 feet. Downhill. The green slopes from right to left, so I don't have a strong forehand game, but this is definitely a forehand hole. Thought I was giving it an ace run, but definitely came up a little short. Hole 13, 342 feet, par 3. I guess if you have a big forehand, there's some options. Otherwise, you pretty much got to go right hand, backhand, up the gut. Didn't give that one enough turn. I was kind of nervous too. Instead, now I'm just pitching up. So it kind of slopes away behind the basket, but not much. Going razor claw here. Saved 3. Hole 14, par 4, 584 feet. This is where the course starts to open up a little bit. Really, left-hand backhand is the only line that's kind of blocked. So I'm going Big Z Zeus. Throwing it ever so slightly into like a right to left headwind. So I'm going to get this disc over. Let the wind kind of hold the flight plate. Didn't hold any as long as I would have liked, but it's way down there. I'll be able to throw a zone upshot here. And I kind of throw it really low, but the wind just stays under it as it, gets that little hyzer ground play. Super pumped with that. Feels like a good birdie to get for sure. Hole 15, 350 feet. With this right to left headwind, this was a really tricky hole, so I threw a hex, something I knew would get a bunch of ante, but with how downhill this hole is, I also knew that it would eventually stall and have time to swing back towards the basket. Forehand would definitely be the play here for a righty, but it's just not my strong suit. And on this trip to Austin, I got to play a ton of golf, so I was really being mindful with my shots. Just throwing my best shot, not the best shot for the hole. Man, that was a lot of metal for not making the putt. Hole 16, 533 feet, par 4. This is a tough hole. So you have a Mando, so you have to throw this gap because this hole is so inviting just to throw a hyzer high right around all these water tanks. So I'm going Mindbender here. And there is a pond on the left, so like you need to commit to the turnover. And I yanked it. Not as bad as the film made it look, but still pretty bad.
It is a par 4.
So ideally I would have been about
water on the left.
Towards the edge of that shadow. That would be the best spot to be if you're going to play something short off the tee. And this is really short off the tee. I'm super out of position. So I'm going to go Zeus and try and blast something under this low ceiling that's in front of me. It's only about a 5-foot ceiling. Being 6'2", this was not the shot. I only threw that 100 feet.
But this is a good bobcat.
So now I've got about 315 to the pin. I'm going Bobcat. But luckily I've got all this room for a nice wide hyzer. I don't remember how far that tree was, but it was outside of Bobcat range, so I wasn't worried about it. But this entire hole, this pond, is on the left, so it makes your turnovers touchy, because if you don't commit enough, you're going in the water. If you overcommit, you're throwing a thrower, so bad news. Hole 17, 306. I mean, this is a forehand hole. Even James Conrad threw forehand on this hole when they had a big tournament out here a handful of years ago. And really, the backhand here is even touchier than the last hole. Kind of overturned that a little bit. But it's a low ceiling, sloping right to left, so makes it an even touchier ground play angle for a backhand turnover. Not a terrible razor claw shot off the tee, but that zone shot, I fluffed it a lot. So now I've got a weird putt to save my par here. Boof. Hole 18, 646 feet, par 4. All right, hole 18. If you want to just drive the green, it's only 600 feet to the basket. But to a layup, it's about 380 to the landing zone straight off the tee by those bird houses. Yeah, the bird houses are 380 and 400. Par 4. Let's see how it plays out. I'm going with my trusty water turnover driver here. G-Star Wraith. I'm going to hold over and get safe. Barely. I ended up in the tall grass. Real quick look at the pond. I don't know if you can see them. Nature appreciation moment
Turtles.
here.
There's a bunch of turtles.
That's cool. Yeah, I would have liked to be about 10 feet further where I was on flat ground. I'm going to go razor claw here and try and turf it just short of the basket since it's below the crest of that hill. And I barely made the green. I should have been okay with going long. So this pine tree's kind of in my way. I'm going to have to take a knee. I thought I had to take a knee. I probably should have just stepped out because I ended up throwing through the pine tree and almost making it. But yeah, Flat Creek, couldn't recommend it enough. This was my favorite course that I played. I like the 7 or 8 courses I played while I was in Austin for this trip. Can't recommend it enough. They have wine tasting and food options if you make reservations a couple hours ahead of time. It's a super fantastic course. Thanks for watching. We'll see you out there.